My 7th grade English teacher, Mrs. B, used to tell us, believe none of what you hear, half of what you read, and only what you're there to witness firsthand.
Great advice from Lara Trump, the daughter-in-law of the President of the United States, former. She's currently married to Eric Trump, and she's got a great kid there, huh? I think a couple of more. Lara Trump, welcome back to Newsmax. How are you?
Thank you. It's great to be back with you, Greg. Thanks for having me. Yes, my current husband is Eric Trump, but let's hope that it stays that way. We'll have to see how he performs. We're still going to wait on that.
Sorry, is that how I framed it? Forgive me. I didn't mean it that way. So look, by the way, seriously, that was fantastic advice. And who is Mrs. B? And what subject did she teach you? And I just think that really was great advice.
It really was. And by the way, it stuck with me for a long time because I know it'll come as a shock to people. 7th grade English was a while ago for me. Her name was Mrs. Believer-Nick, but we shortened that to Mrs. B. And it's advice that I never knew how powerful and how valid that would become for me at a certain point. But it certainly has rung very true in the past at least 5 years of our lives. So thank you to Mrs. B, wherever she is out there. This was in Wilmington, North Carolina back in the day.
Well, her advice has helped me, actually. I'm glad I heard it, courtesy of you. Look, on January 20th, it was probably, it was a tough day. We saw President Trump leave office, that final speech from Andrews Air Force Base. I think we have some video of it. He spoke about his accomplishments, and you were watching that speech very, very closely, along with your husband and your family. And I could see the emotion. This was tough. My heart broke, but I was also very proud and happy for you at the same time that you were leaving some of this nonsense behind. What were you thinking?
Yeah, well, look, it was a tough day. You know, nobody who voted for President Trump would say otherwise. Nobody who supported him. And listen, we all got into this, Greg, as a family. Back in 2015, when my father-in-law came down the escalator in Trump Tower and announced that he was going to run for president of the United States, and we have all done it as a family. And as such, we've taken all the arrows, and we have all been targets by the media and by those on the left that disagree with Donald Trump as president and didn't like his policies, et cetera. But I was very proud, too. Look, I think even my father-in-law exceeded my own expectations, and I knew that he would be such a great president. And I think people who maybe voted for Joe Biden are already having buyer's remorse at this point and maybe thinking back to the Trump presidency, the great economy we had, the energy independence that we had, the jobs that, were through the roof in America. We had more jobs than we even had people to fill them at a certain point during Donald Trump's presidency. And it hasn't been easy for him. You know, they fought him every single step of the way. So I think that final speech was, it was very emotional for all of us. We were so proud of him. But in some ways, look, he deserves a break because he's taken a lot of incoming. So I think we're all happy that, you know, he is getting a bit of a break from it. You know, I wouldn't say they're leaving him alone, but they certainly aren't targeting him as much. They probably should turn their focus, though, to the guy that's actually in the White House, who no one really has heard from in any formal capacity since he took office. That is very interesting. But I can say that alongside 75 million Americans, it was a very proud moment, for me to stand there alongside my father-in-law and listen to the great accomplishments of his administration.
You know, there was no doubt that your father-in-law was leading. Some folks may not have liked it, but he was leading. Doesn't look like Joe Biden is leading or doing much of anything. Lara, we hope your dad comes back in 2024. And a lot of folks are hoping that you enter the political fray in 2022 in North Carolina. Let's talk about this for a moment. You're under serious consideration, or your name has been mentioned as a senatorial candidate in North Carolina. What's the latest on that?
Well, no official announcement to make right now. Look, it's a big decision. Like I said, our family has been through a lot in the past 5 years. They haven't made any of this easy for all of us. And I certainly can see why there are so many in my family that say, we'll never enter politics ever, because it is tough. They make it very tough on you. But I think there's also another side to it that we all got to see. And I certainly saw myself firsthand, which is, the really positive impact that you can have on people's lives. And certainly my father-in-law was one of those people who impacted millions and millions of Americans in very positive ways. Now, I was born and raised in North Carolina. It is my home. I will always consider it my home. My entire family still lives there. And it's something that I couldn't think of a greater honor, quite frankly, than to represent the people of my home state. So it's something I'm taking very seriously. Again, no official announcement right now, but it would be something incredible. It would be something I'd be honored to do, and something that, I would work very, very hard to earn the vote of every North Carolinian. And gosh, I named my daughter Carolina, Greg. So, I mean, that has to count for something for the people of my home state, but nothing official yet.
Well, I hope you do it, because you've got raw political talent and refined political talent. Look, I've seen you on the Sunday shows up against Chris Wallace, Jake Tapper. I mean, these guys come out guns blazing. Sometimes I think I should do the same thing, but I can't do it. I like you, and I'm on my way. But these guys, they tried to put you in a box. I've been watching those Sunday shows for years. I've never seen anybody handle it better than you. I'm talking presidents, senators with 4 terms under their belt. You're gifted at this stuff. You really are. I don't know if that's a question. Let me ask you this. What would be your priority? What would be your #1 issue? What would you want to do for the North Carolinians? Granted, nothing's official, but what would you like to pull off?
Well, gosh, I think I would have to listen to the people of my home state. I certainly think they want their state open. That is one thing I can tell you. Maybe I should be running for governor instead of Senate if that's something I decided to do. But truly, I'd have to sit down and really talk to people. I think school choice is a big issue across our entire country, but certainly in my home state. I think people want their businesses to be reopened. They want to see their small businesses flourish. My parents happen to be small business owners. They have been my entire life. So I understand the struggles that they're going through, that they've gone through and continue to have at this point in the state. So, it would be a series of sitting down, I think, with people from, the mountains in North Carolina to the coast where I grew up, and seeing what they had to say to really narrow that down.
Hey, you grew up, I lived in Newbern, North Carolina for 2 years. Do you know where that is? Where were you?
I do. Yeah, I grew up at Wrightsville Beach, but Wilmington's the bigger city. That's where I lived my entire life. I know Newbern very well, of course.
It's a beautiful state. It's got a lot to offer. You've got a lot to offer it. I hope this happens. And by the way, in the meantime, you can check out Lara twice a week at least on Rumble. You've got that show, The Right View. It's terrific, and it's basically like The View you see with Whoopi, but not insane. And it's a great show. And you got great guests. And there's Kimberly and your husband, your current and only and forever husband, Eric Trump. We appreciate it so much, Lara.
You got it. Thanks so much for having me.
Okay, to be continued, and we'll be right back.
You just watched Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news channel, now in more than 70 million homes. You can get Newsmax TV on your cable system or check your cable guide. And if your system doesn't carry Newsmax, call them, tell them you want Newsmax TV, because we're real news for real people.